Welcome to Behind the Scenes with PPO, a video series that looks behind the curtain at how meat processors are working with tech companies like PPO and why. I'm Heather Galt, the Chief Customer Officer here at PNP Optica. Today I'm joined by Jaime Poholko, one of PPO's customer success managers. Jaime's been with PPO for about 3 years now, and he's worked with a variety of different meat processors during his time. Before that, he spent about 20 years working in customer success for technology companies in a variety of different industrial processing applications. Welcome, Jaime.
Thanks, Heather.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's jump right in. So tell me a little bit, from your experience, when a tech company starts working with an industrial processor, whether it's meat processor or someone else, what are some of the things they need to keep in mind right from the beginning?
So keep in mind that meat processing and high tech are culturally very, very different from each other. Tech companies move so fast, they pivot almost daily, maybe even weekly, and they are not afraid to make mistakes because they can just revert back, right? You make a mistake in your code or something like that, you can go back to the next one that you had before that was working perfectly fine. Meat processing and industrial processing in general does not have any of that luxury.
No undo button.
Exactly. No undo button. So when you're in an industrial application, you're more cautious. You're not moving quite as quickly. And with a tech company, they need to understand that. And as a meat processor, you need to understand how they operate as well. So one of the things that I would recommend is bringing that tech company into your operation. Show them how they have an impact on your day-to-day, how expensive it is if something goes wrong. And meet all the different players in your organization.
That's a great idea. So basically what you're saying is come in, get to know each other a little bit, understand the risks and benefits of whatever the technology is inside the context of your organization before you start moving ahead.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
That makes sense. So tech companies have a pretty specialized language, right? You and I both know all the 3-letter acronyms or TLAs that tech companies have. Right. And what I've seen with meat processors is they have the same thing, but those two languages are very different. So how do you bridge the gap?
I think that you have to try at the beginning at least to step out of your comfort zone of knowing all these things and take a look at, like, for instance, AI. In our industry, that's artificial intelligence, right? When you look at beef or others, you have avian influenza or artificial insemination. Right? There's many different ways you can say the same 2 letters, right? That's going to exist in your industry, and it's also going to exist in the tech industry. So break down those barriers, explain what that means, and then each of you will be on the same page with what these acronyms or these short forms mean to each other, so that the next time you say AI as a tech company, you say artificial intelligence versus avian influenza, as an example.
Maybe avoiding the assumption.
That's right.
What you're talking
exactly.
About. Yeah.
Avoid the assumption that they know what you mean when you say AI, right, or other acronyms that exist in your industry.
Right. Because everybody's industry has their own kind of perspective.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. So tech companies move really fast. And the meat industry, as an example, in a lot of industrial applications, they don't have that same speed and pace. So how does a meat processor kind of help the the tech company to make sure they understand the timelines that each is working in and kind of get to the middle and the agreement on that?
Yeah, so I'd highly recommend both companies get together in the plant, right? Tech companies that you want to be working with as a meat processor will have some industry experience. That's the hope and goal, right? Unless you're an early adopter. If you're an early adopter, then you are going to have to teach these tech companies a little bit. So have a little bit of patience with them. They're very keen. They're very curious companies usually. There's also different like structures in a tech company versus a meat processor. A tech company is usually very flat. So the person that is developing software is often talking directly with the CEO, maybe once a day, maybe once a week. Oftentimes, a meat processing person that's cutting, making trim, or deboning a chicken is maybe never going to meet the CEO of an industrial processor.
Right, or even meet the person who runs their plant.
Perhaps,
right? Yeah.
Perhaps, that's right. Or a complex manager that has multiple plants that kind of moves around to different locations frequently.
Right.
So bring those people into your organization, bring them in, share as much as you can, because they're going to be very curious. Teach them about you, teach them about your operation and how they have an impact on what your day-to-day looks like, because it's going to be very different than what their experience has been so far. As if you're working with a company that has been around for much longer, they'll have some of this experience already, right? They will often have industry people working for them, like we do at PPO, or they're going to lean on industry experts to get a bit of an understanding of how your operations are going to work. But as we all know, every chicken plant, every pork plant, yes, the product comes in and the product leaves. But how it gets done, there are some subtle differences. And where this piece of equipment or software or whatever new tech that you're bringing in can have a different impact on your entire operation.
For sure. Got it. Okay, so one last question, and sort of in a similar vein, but the workforce inside a tech company and the workforce inside of a meat processing plant can be pretty different, right? Not only in terms of size, but in terms of background and education, like you talked about, culture, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you, as a meat processor, how do you prepare the tech company to succeed in helping your workforce use their tools? What can a meat processor do to kind of guide a tech company in that regard?
So tech companies typically, like I said earlier, are fairly young organizations, fairly flat. They have no problem talking to different people, and they're usually fairly educated people. When you look at a meat processor or most industrial applications that I've worked in anyway, some of these people that are working in these plants maybe have a high school education or maybe didn't finish high school, and then all the way through to PhDs, right? So you have a wide variety of people. So as a meat processor, I think one of the things that I would recommend is bringing in and sharing the level of education for your equipment. So some of those people that are on the plant floor, every plant I've been in, every employee has a smartphone. So working with something that has a screen is probably not too scary for them.
Right.
Working with different software applications, your teams that are working with that already probably already work with a computer every single day. So it's probably not that scary. But there is turnover, right? That's a reality that happens way more frequently in a meat processing plant or every other industrial application. So making sure that tech company is supplying you with the resources you need in order to retrain or keep training up with your employees. So online resources, training manuals, those kinds of things.
Things like checklists, so somebody knows exactly what to do every
day. A daily operational checklist, yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Got it, awesome. So any parting words? What would your last piece of advice be? What haven't we talked about? So
I would say that one of the biggest things that a meat processor and tech company can do together is really have open communication. That's going to be critical. Share your insight into how this new piece of equipment is going to help you, what your main goals are, and give them the opportunity to help you reach your goals and be successful in the end, right? Open, honest communication has really worked for me as in all of my industry experience, and has really gotten the results that everyone has been looking for.
Awesome. That was super insightful. Thank you, Jaime. Don't forget to check out the other videos in our behind the scenes series, including our interview with Alex Heater, who dispels some myths that we often come across when we talk about foreign materials. See you next time.